Okay, ladies, so the last two examples for the notes today. We were talking about negative exponents. And so I'm giving you three examples on this page. You might want to skim over those really quickly. And I'll give you one more, a couple more on this page, and then we'll flip to a few more that are a little more complex. So we're looking at what to do when you have some negative exponents and some exponents that are not negative. You want to remember that you only do reciprocals if the exponent is negative, not if the coefficient is negative. So for this example, the -4 stays in the numerator, and the 3 stays in the denominator. The x squared needs to go to the denominator with a power of +2, and the y squared stays in the denominator. And that's it. There's nothing you can do with that. A lot of times a textbook or an answer sheet would have that -4 centered, but it doesn't really matter. Okay? A couple more of these. That's 3 over -4, and then x to the -7, y to the -2. Just another reminder that when the variables are beside the coefficient, that's the same thing as them being on the top. So this is the same question. We are not going to flip the -3, no reciprocal. We're not going to do the reciprocal of -4. However, remember when we talk about positive divided by negative being negative, and I've said this all year long, try to move that negative up to the numerator. It's just a little bit better form, okay? And then I'm going to move the x to the denominator and the y to the denominator. And one last one, reminding you that when they start in the denominator, if they have a negative exponent on them, they're going to flip up to the numerator. We don't move the 4, we don't move the 3, but the x squared and the y cubed are going to pop up to the numerator. Okay? All right, let's do some multiplying. What if we have two different expressions and there are negative exponents involved? And we're multiplying them. The rules are exactly the same as they were before. We're going to put the coefficients forward. We're going to put the x's together. We're going to put the y's together. And then we're going to move anything that has a negative exponent. This is our new step. If it's got a negative exponent, we're going to do the reciprocal. I'm going to go ahead and multiply 4 times 2. I'm going to leave that x squared in the numerator and put the x to the 4th in the denominator. I'm going to leave the y squared in the numerator and put the y cubed in the denominator. So the bases with the negative exponents, this one and this one, get flipped to the denominator. And now I'm going to just use my subtraction rule that we had before. Where are more of them? Where are they going to end up? We're going to leave our 8 in the numerator. We have 4 x's in the denominator, only 2 in the numerator, so that's 2 in the denominator, and 1 extra y in the denominator. You can skip that first step that I did if you want to, and just stop and say, where do things go, numerator or denominator? And just go ahead and start with that step. -3 numerator, -2 numerator. I like to get my coefficients, these two, pulled to the front of the problem. I'm going to take this x, move it to the denominator. I'm going to leave this x in the numerator. If it bothers you when they're not one over the top of each other like that, then just make them one over the top of each other. It can be a little bit easier to see. All right, and then I'm going to put my y's together. This y is going to stay in the numerator. And this y is going to go to the denominator. All right, then you just work through this becomes a problem just like the ones we already had on the quiz. 6, x squared in the numerator, y squared in the denominator. The parentheses in those last two problems were just showing multiplication. So I took them off of these and just put a dot there. This is basically the same problem as the last two. I just left the parentheses off. And I threw a fraction in, but fractions are not that bad. You can handle them. We're going to think what goes in the numerator and what goes in the denominator. This 3 right here goes in the numerator. This 4 goes in the denominator. And this -4 goes in the numerator. None of them have negative exponents. They stay where they are. Okay? I'm going to do the m's next. This m moves to the denominator, and this m stays in the numerator. And then I'm going to do the n's. This n and this n, both of them are going to stay in the numerator. I'm going to put a 1 there just because it kind of helps me remember that I don't want to say that 1. And then I'm going to combine things that are alike. Then take care of this part right here. This is coefficient. Now hopefully you don't need your calculator for that, but if you do, go ahead and pull it out. 3 times -4 is -12, and -12 divided by 4 is 3. Plain old 3, except that I forgot my negative, sorry, it's -3. The m's, I had m cubed over m squared, that's an m in the numerator. And these two, the two n's over here, these I need to add those exponents, so that's going to be into the 4. This time in the denominator, the only thing left in the denominator is that 4, and there's our final answer for that. One more like this. I'm just going to focus on numerator, denominator. Where does it go? The -5 stays in the numerator, the 2 stays in the numerator. This x goes to the denominator, this x stays in the numerator. This y stays in the numerator, this y goes to the denominator. Remember when you switch them to the denominator, sorry, when you do the reciprocal, that the power then becomes positive. And what a strange thing, these two cancel out, these two cancel out, and my final answer here is -10. Okay, -10. All right, last little bit. What about dividing some expressions? So just a quick reminder, we did this one already, or one like it. You have a coefficient, stays on top, this x goes to the bottom. So that's super basic. Okay, the basic idea behind all of them. 3x squared y to the -2 divided by 6 x to the -4th y. We're going to start by looking at, do I want to rearrange anything? Anything with a negative exponent, I'm going to do the reciprocal. So I'm going to leave the 3 and the 6 right where they are. They do not have negative exponents. This one right here, this x, has a positive exponent. Leave it where it is. This one gets flipped. So it started in the bottom, flip it to the top. This y stays where it is. This y gets flipped. It started in the top, move it to the bottom. I meant to say, when you move it, make sure the power becomes positive. Now in this case, you're going to reduce those coefficients. 3 divided by 6, that's reduce, not subtract. 3 divided by 6 is 1/2. These two, right here, I don't subtract those powers, I add the exponents, right there. So those are going to be x to the 6th. And these two, right here, also I add the exponents. And they're in the denominator, so it's going to stay in the denominator, y to the 3rd. Okay? I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to focus on rearranging so that I don't have any negative exponents. One of the most common mistakes is for people to flip everything they see that's negative. This is not a negative exponent. This is a negative coefficient, so it stays right where it is. Don't move it. Don't move this one. I'm going to take this one right here and move it to the bottom, where it's going to join this one, which does not get moved. I'm going to take this one and move it to the bottom, where it's going to join this one, which does not get moved. And then I'm going to put everything together. -5 divided by 10 is -1/2. Add those exponents, x to the 9. Add those exponents, y squared. Last example. Okay, that's a 0. It's a little hard to read as far as handwriting. Okay? So we're going to start by moving things with negative exponents. Don't move the 8. Don't move the -2. Don't move the x cubed. Do move the x to the -5th, make it an x to the +5th. Don't move the y squared, and here's this fun little thing we did in class right at the beginning, y to the 0. What is y to the 0 the same thing as? Times 1. All right? So that just becomes a plain old 1, not a y, just a plain old 1. And now I'll just put anything together that I can. 8 divided by -2 is -4. These x's here, I add the exponents, they end up on the top. This y, there's only one there, y squared, ends up on the bottom, and there you have it. That's all of them now. You should be able to work all the problems on your homework. Good luck.